Ugh. I'm still kind of working out the camera angles in this space. I haven't figured out where I should be yet. So that's why I'm sitting right here. Since odd camera angle, but work with me, walk with me. We're going to figure it out together. But as I always start my video, welcome back to the Zone Focus channel. My name is Chris, and thank you again for stopping by. And it's been a while since I've done that, and I'm happy to do that again. So current situation. Since the last time I made a video, I have moved apartments again. Not only did I move apartments, but I moved cities. I moved from Okayama, Japan to Osaka, Japan. Osaka is a big city, second or third biggest city in the country. Okayama is a very small city, countryside, not a lot of people. Open spaces, mountains, air, all of that type of stuff. Osaka, opposite. Tall buildings, no air, craziness on the daily. And that's where I live right now. So since I've been here, there hasn't been anything shot on my end as far as videos for YouTube goes. Recently, I went to the US back home to visit my family, which was very important to me. And I really enjoyed the time being with them and being with the people I love. And since I have finished that, I came back to Japan and I have been under quarantine because I'm not fully vaccinated with the booster shot. If you're not fully vaccinated with booster shots, when you come into the country in Japan and you're not a tourist at the moment, when you come into the country, you have to quarantine. So I've been under quarantine for a while now, and I'm still under quarantine. Quarantine has pretty much drove me crazy. And this is the aftermath of that craziness. Self-portraits. That's the point of this video. Today's video is all about self-portraits. I made some self-portraits because I was really upset about being in quarantine, and I got tired of complaining to myself about being in quarantine. So what did I do? Figured out something to do. I did. I just figured out something to do. I was like, I need something to do. And I was like, okay, well, who's going to help you figure out something to do? You are. Who can help you with the situation? You can. And that's what I told myself. And then self-portraits happened. So I got this camera right here, the Rolleiflex 3.5F, which was just sitting around because I hadn't used it since I gotten back from the US. And I had a couple of rolls of black and white film, a roll of FP4 and a roll of Acros 100. As a matter of fact, both of those films I shot at 400. And today I'm going to be showing you guys the process of me shooting one of those rolls, which is the Acros 2 roll. And I kind of show some of the setups. I'm in a new apartment, which is smaller than my last apartment, but I'm really just trying to work the space that I have and have some fun. So I tried to get some video shots of my setups that I set up and the shots that I had envisioned. I'm going to talk to you guys about that during this video. So let's do it. The first setup that I ended up doing was actually in my bathroom. So there's a mirror, of course. Well, yeah, there's a mirror in my bathroom. So, of course, the first place you usually go when you're trying to do a self-portrait is to the mirror, because the mirror gives you the easiest way to see your shot and see what you're shooting and not have to set up anything weird to focus, because with the mirror you can actually focus on yourself and it makes focusing a lot easier. It makes framing a lot easier, and you can kind of see your image before you get to the actual photo part. So right there, I was just taking a meter. I have that strong light coming in through that side window, and there's not really any field light on the opposite side of that window. So I ended up kind of taking down the exposure a little bit from what the meter said, just to make sure I gave myself some more space on that dark side. So I took my first exposure and I looked right in the camera. Then I decided to take another exposure just to get to, make sure I got one. And I changed it up a little bit and decided to look towards the window. Right here, I'm kind of looking back and forth, trying to make sure my body is positioned the way I want it to be. And also that, I'm opening up to the light in the way that I wanted to see it. So then I made the second exposure, and there we go, 2 exposures. I think the photos came out really nice. I actually enjoy both of these photos. The first one, as you can see, the shadows are dark, but I think that little bit of extra space I gave on the exposure really helped not lose everything in the shadows. And with the second photo, I like the turn towards the light helped illuminate my face a little bit more past my nose. I think those two came out. For the first 2 shots on the roll, they weren't too bad. For the second shot, I use right here, this is a self timer that luckily the Rolleiflex has built in, and it's very good to have when you take a self-portrait. Right here, I'm looking at what I want to frame. What I want to do is I want to sit down on the floor where I'm pointing at, and then I want to shoot through my room, through the doorways, and actually get myself sitting in the frame against my bed. Again, it worked out pretty decent. I think I shot this wide open, and the distance helped with the focus, because of course, since the distance is a little further away, that 3.5 depth of field gets slightly larger than it would be if I was right up on the camera. So I think the shot came out how I wanted it to come out. There's depth, there's layers to the shot because of the doorways, and then there's also the frame of the actual window in the back of the scene. The second one, I'm just having fun, just trying to figure out what's another way I could do this photo. It's the whole point of this experiment, the whole point of self-portraits is just to have a good time, just to have fun and experiment. The next portrait that I decided to make was a double exposure. What I wanted to use was the frosted glass that you see on the left side of the window, which is the partition in my room, and also the outside balcony window. And what I envisioned is having myself standing in front of both of these, using the frosted glass to kind of get a blurred image of myself, and then I wanted to get a sharp image of my silhouette back on the window. As you can see, I wanted to get my hand right up on the window and blur out my body. So that was the first image that I took, and then the second image I wanted to be, as you can see, in the window frame, looking out of the window. I didn't expose the photo well. I think I overexposed the image because I did double exposure, so I blew out the window, and because I blew out the window in the background, my image of my body doesn't come up. You can slightly see a faded version of my ankles towards the bottom. There's a little gray, so you can see that I was there, but it's not enough to actually be able to tell that there was an image of me. Overall, it was a nice idea. It didn't come out the way I wanted it to, but hey, that's part of the game. So after I finished shooting out inside, I decided to go out onto my balcony. So I set my camera up on a tripod. I had this box, and I wanted to use this box to focus on, to make sure your focus is right before you set up the camera. And then you want to choose an aperture that allows you to have enough depth of field to compensate for the fact that you're not really focusing on your eye and you're kind of guesstimating the distance. Got my shutter release cable, and then prepared for the shot. Because the length of my shutter release cable, I could kind of get in position and then pull the, set the shutter off. So that's what I did. I kind of set up in the position that I wanted to set it up in, and then I hit the button. So after that, I ended up taking 2 exposures, and I slightly moved the camera on my second exposure, and I looked out into the distance, up into the buildings, and these are the photos that I made. As you can see, the first photo came out how I envisioned it. I wanted myself off to the side. I didn't want to be centered in the frame, and I wanted to give myself some space instead of being pushed right against the right side of the frame. On the second frame, looking up into the buildings, I wanted to focus to infinity, kind of get the buildings in order with me out of focus in the foreground. Again, same kind of framing. I wanted to make sure that there was space in front of me to give me some air on the right side of the frame, and to be able to look out into the distance at what I was looking at. So, and the last frames of the roll that I made were, again, using the curtain in my apartment, but just using it in a slightly different way. In the last shot, I ended up not using a Rolleinar because I just couldn't get it to work out like I wanted it to. With this shot, since I was inside and I knew I wanted a closer portrait, I decided to add the Rolleinar on to this shot. So I'm actually putting on the Rollinars right here. And the Rolleinar is basically a set of filters that go onto the lens of the cameras. And it's really cool how they set up because they're connected. You can actually thread them into each other so they always stay together. really nice to carry around, super light. And basically with the Rolleiflex, you don't have to worry about parallax because the camera automatically does the parallax correction even though you're focusing closer. The Rolleiflex have built-in parallax compensation. Dope. I know you ain't got to do it. So what I'm doing right here is I reached out to the curtain and I kind of envisioned where I would like to be in the shot, and I'm using that little pinch of the curtain to kind of focus on. And then I'm going to use that as a visual indicator of where I need to put myself when it's time to take the portrait. So I wanted to take 2 different shots with this setup. I wanted to do one where I was actually wrapped in the curtain, and then I wanted to do one where I was kind of like pulling the curtain across my face so that only half of my face is showing, and that one eye is out and the other is covered by the curtain. So these are just ideas that I had when I was thinking of different ways that I could work the curtain. Usually what I do beforehand is I'll set up, or before I set up the camera, if I have the idea of what I want, I will use the curtain and just kind of play with it and look in the mirror and see what I like and what I don't like. And that will kind of dictate how I take the photos. And then with the second image, again, I just wanted to drape the curtain across half of my face and only have one eye out. And here's what the images came out like. The first image, I really like how it came out, but again, the scanner kind of blew the highlights out. And I think the second shot came out how I wanted it. I kind of took a similar photo a couple years ago, and this one is kind of like an updated version of that same photo. And I like how the texture of the curtain ended up working out. So yeah. Okay, that's the end of the video with this Rolleiflex and a lot of time. This is what happens when you mix the two together. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I need to do it more often. Self-portraits is a really fun way to get yourself out of a rut. When you just don't know what to shoot, when you don't know what to do, even if you're not leaving your space, if you need to get out of the house, that's cool, but you can do it inside of your own house. Just try to work with what you have, work the space, find different angles that you can shoot from, and just have a good time. I really had a good time, and I really enjoyed the photos, how they came out, and I recommend it for anybody out there who just wants to have a good time and has some time on their hands to do it. So it's not a lot. I think the most important thing that you'll need is a self timer if your camera doesn't have one on it. Luckily, the Rolleiflex does, but you definitely need that, and a shutter release cable if you don't have that as well. If you're doing self-portraits with a digital camera, they all usually have timers built in, so you don't have to worry about that at all. And yeah, have fun, make some pictures, and you never know what you might create because, you know, maybe it'll be a project one day. Who knows? But as always, subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel out. The channel has really grown a lot since a couple years ago when I started, and I thank every one of you because I haven't been the most consistent with making these videos, and yeah, we know. But thank you all for just sticking around and staying with me. On top of that, like the video if you like it, and comment down below. Do you like taking self-portraits or no? And yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you, everybody out there. Love y'all. Holla at you later. Stay zone focused. Peace.